should be. Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim. Are we doing the freedom variant or the least of many evils?
Well, we haven't figured out what our next name is going to be, so we're still doing the least of many evils. The least of many evils. I would like target goal 2% or less evil seems a little complicated, though. I do, in fact, enjoy it. Like, I think that's a good one. You when you said that, I'm like, man, that is just literally perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see what one I end up going with when we actually do the WYSL show.
All right.
Tim, you're not live on X. Did you let your premium account status drop?
No.
Premium account on X is required to create live broadcasts on their platform.
What
Tim for Senate.
I just spent $100 and whatever dollars on this thing. How did
not
they do
giving Elon enough money?
And they didn't warn us ahead of time, right? Like,
no, like I knew, like mine, like I couldn't broadcast live on mine because like I'm cheap and I have not paid for the live service. Tim,
I can't believe
Elon's screwing you here, man.
Oh, bro,
I see no like blue check or anything.
Well, the blue check goes when you change your name, but yes, it did expire for like 24 hours, but I'm all set to go. Like,
dang, it's not letting you. All right, well, that's things. We are not live on Twitter. That's where we've been doing the best too.
Yeah, that one's been bringing us people, man.
All right, well, we'll share the podcast for the Twitter audience after.
Yeah, well, what's the YouTube thing? Because maybe I can get people to go there because there was a pretty good response to my tweet. Do you know how to do that? I wonder if I can get it from here.
I'll share the link. I'll share the link over to you. Dark Closet of Mine says he did lose $9 billion on the Twitter purchase.
I feel so bad for him, really.
All right, we'll share.
Okay, thank you.
We'll share the YouTube link on Twitter.
Copy link address. I'm gonna be like, Elon is stifling me, suppressing me.
He's suppressing your free speech, Tim. Anyway, that might be one of the topics that we cover today because we might be talking about Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg's letter to a member of the Senate, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got your post open, Jim Jordan.
Yeah.
So that the House, yeah, he wrote an interesting letter to them about the whole COVID and election interference stuff. Maybe we'll get into that. I think the big things that we're going to talk about, the whole thing with Telegram. We'll talk about the thing with RFK endorsing Trump, and we might get into some other stuff, some New York State stuff in Onondaga County and Aquarium.
Yeah, man, the government begging for private money. It's beautiful, brother. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, if they did that for everything, I would actually be cool with it. That's
if they begged for it ahead of time and be like, all right, well, we got $6 million. We can build a $6 million aquarium unless we get more money. I'd be ecstatic,
Yeah, great. And then if you care about it, you can fund it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You want to do it, great, man. That's awesome. If you don't want to do it, or if you're like, whatever, I'll pay when they open it up and whatever.
Yeah.
That's how nonprofits do it all the time. Anyway, so we have a handful of topics to talk about tonight, folks. We're gonna jump into it in just a second. But of course, if you're listening and you have something to contribute, something that you want to share, leave your comment. And if it's good stuff or interesting or whatever, we'll throw it up. We'll talk about it. Maybe you'll change the direction of the show. You never know. This is how these things go.
It helps me. Like, give me some stuff to ramble on.
Ramble on. Yes, that's exactly what Tim needs, folks. Distractions to enable his rambling. We need more of that. If that's your favorite part of the show, leave a comment. So you're gonna get more of. All right, but we'll head in about 10-ish seconds from now, and do our thing. All right, so we'll go in 5, 3.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Willis, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, brother. I'm here. How are you?
Living the dream, Tim. Living the dream.
That's good stuff, man. So, look, it's been a wild and wacky week in the news. Once again, thank you to the WYSL audience. I want to remind everybody that's checking our show out today. Kevin and I did a special show. Check out our podcast. We did it on Sunday. We didn't have a lot of foot traffic that we normally get. So, guys, feel free to go check us out.
We had a surprise unannounced show Sunday at 11 a.m. No one showed up for some reason.
We had our Twitter crowd. That was good.
But
This week has been an amazing week for political news, for free speech news, for many, many events. The biggest one we've got to talk about is RFK doing his thing, suspending some pieces of his campaign and endorsing Donald Trump. Like, he has a very interesting game plan. Are you aware, Kevin, of like what he's trying to do?
Roughly, right? So it's just like he's pulling out of some swing states, endorsing Trump, but also wants people to have an outlet in not swing states to be able to vote for stuff.
Bro, he's going after the DNC wildly hard. Like, he is really taking on that machine. And
the DNC is going after him, to be fair. Like, it's not like I mean, like, occasionally we'll, like, libertarians do this, like, the party machines are going after me, and what the actual case is, the party machines don't know you exist.
Correct.
They know RFK Jr. existed, and again, this is an ideological endorsement, but like he was, and I shouldn't have to say that, but he was like people were going after him hard. The DNC was spending thousands to millions of dollars to try to kick him off ballots. They kicked him off the ballot successfully in New York State. By saying that he didn't live here, which means that he's probably going to lose the ballot status in other states too.
That's correct. Now, I did hear him on a podcast today, and I can't remember who he's 100% confident that he is going to win vindication as this case travels its way up through the hierarchy of the legal system. So he fully believes he's going to be on the ballot in New York State, but
it's got to get through the legal system in time for that to happen, which, like, that. Listen, there have been cases with the libertarians too, where it's like, technically you guys are right. You should have gotten ballot access, but it's been 40 years now. So that stinks.
We're familiar with his struggles. That's for sure. I don't think that we've ever had as much money as he has, and the clout and the connections. So it will be interesting to see if he can actually pull it off and his name ends up on the ballot in New York State. But like, I do think it does speak to that issue of this authoritarian duality that's only like rigorously enforced by lawfare. Okay, like that the DNC and to the lesser extent the GOP engage in lawfare to stifle democracy, and that is like there's no way around debating that. If you want to debate that, you have to be kind of brain dead. You have to be kind of crazy. You have to be like, well, that's just the way the system works. And it's like, that's not the way the system has always worked. That's not what democracy is supposed to be about. And we need more voices in the political theater to help clean up what I see as completely legalized but thoroughly corrupt practices by the two-party system that carry all the way into their business dealings when it comes to managing the government. So
yeah, sure.
That's where I'm at with that.
So the type of worldview that like someone like Andrew Cuomo takes, there's like the worldview that you have, like, hey, more voices are better because that gives us opportunities to better express our preferences and perhaps come up with alternatives that are going to lead to more functional governments, freer societies, whatever it is, whatever your outcome is, right?
Right.
Someone like Andrew Cuomo says, we're in this to win. And why shouldn't we use every legal avenue available to us to win? The stakes are too high to lose. So, yeah, if that means kicking some third-party chump off the ballot, then that's what we're going to do. If they didn't want to lose, they should have lawyered up and prepared better. Like that's the mentality that people like. I say Cuomo because he specifically killed third parties in New York State. But like it's the Democratic Party machine, the Republican Party machine, like both parties are not committed to small d democracy. They're committed to winning. That's what they want to do, and they'll use every avenue possible to win because they see the stakes as too high to allow a pure form of democracy to function.
For-profit corporations selling us our democracy at it's an amazing situation. It's a deterioration of what I think the principles are. And we can go back to, it's almost cliche at this point to go back to George Washington and him warning us about a two-party system where it's one versus the other. That is a bad way to do it. But I take a look at Britain and I take a look at France, and they have ways of gaming those systems too, where they have multi-parties competing for whatever, and they still rigorously play gamesmanship and engage in like, was it Macron? Yeah, Macron, like disbanding the parliament so that he can gain some sort of like advantage to keep his
that's
seat.
just something they can do. I mean, that's I know like the parliamentary system's kind of weird because they'll disband parliament or dissolve parliament, excuse me.
Yeah, but arguably if he hadn't have done that, then there would be less people seeking re-election at that time, and it would have given his party a disadvantage, and him a distinct disadvantage in the political sphere. Like he saw it as an opportunity to seize power, maintain control, and then that allows him to.
Yeah, I mean that's a prerogative. Like that's the uniqueness of a parliamentary election system where you can just dissolve parliament. And Canada has this, the UK has it, France has it. They say, okay, we're going to dissolve parliament, then we're going to have elections in like 2 weeks, and then the elections are done, and that's it. It's 2 weeks. Wow. I mean. There's something to that a little bit, like only 2 weeks of elections. Okay.
Yeah. So look, is RFK the answer to Trump's perhaps slide in the polls? I don't know. When we take a look at the polling, I'm always a cynic and a skeptic anyway, but it does appear that Kamala Harris has received a boost in the polling.
And then RFK is not a corpse. She's not a corpse. That helps. I mean,
that
she's got the good vibes.
She's got the right. Who doesn't want a little joy in their life? Like who doesn't want to right certain perceived wrongs with the push of a button or the stroke of a pen? That I sometimes I think the wrongs are wholly crafted in.
Are you mad about grocery prices? She's gonna fix it somehow
because she takes it seriously, Kevin. That's it. That's all she's going to take on illegal price gouging. And Robert Reich also helped clear up that point. He wants everyone to know she's not talking about price controls. She's talking about illegal price gouging, which is incredibly different than price controls. And a simple campaign platitude that means absolutely nothing. I want to be very clear about that.
Just vibe. She cares. She's joyful.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I mean,
but yeah, so like I think there's a lot of Republicans who assume that because RFK Jr. ran as a Democrat that he would pull more votes from the Democratic Party, but I think because he has his own type of vibe, like he's like an anti-establishment guy.
He is.
That vibe is a lot stronger in the Republican Party. So I think the Trump team was starting to see like, oh, they're pulling more votes from us.
Sure.
And then the Kamala Harris team is like, we want nothing to do with you. Please stop talking to us. Go away. You're an embarrassment. Stop. And so that I think it seems like RFK Jr. is like, okay, they don't want to talk to me. I seem to get along with these Trump people a little bit better.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so he's not necessarily a wackadoodle anti-carbon environmentalist. He's a legitimate, like, hey, that site's poisoned. I'm going to sue people. Well,
he did say you should go to jail if you deny climate change.
He did, in fact, say that, didn't he?
He also shut down a major nuclear power plant in New York State.
Yeah, but he's reinventing himself, Kevin, and that's what I want to focus on. The vibe of RFK Jr. reinventing himself. And so, again, I get where you're coming from, and I do get caught up in this stuff, man. But he's reinventing himself as I'm not anti-carbon guy. I'm like, we have a toxic waste that we have to clean up. We have things that we have to clean up. He had Republicans cheering for environmental safeguards. He had Republicans cheering for him. Of course, that's because they perceive that he's going to give Donald Trump a boost. I do think there is something to this strategy. I got to be honest. Like,
yeah, probably is.
Between him and also Tulsi Gabbard has been announced to, like, she just endorsed Trump. She's joining the transition team.
She's got the same vibe. That's
yeah, like conservatives that are conservatives or Republicans that are like, okay, we don't like anything we're seeing from the Democratic Party. But then RFK comes along and Tulsi Gabbard comes along and they're like, well, I mean, at least I understand some of the things that they're saying. And they seem to hate certain facets of the government just like I do. So they're they're more palatable for conservatives for whatever particular reason, even though Tulsi was pretty anti-2A and yeah, Tulsi is supporting Trump.
We'll say, Dark Closet of Mine on YouTube says, I'm more impressed that Tulsi G is supporting Trump. I know. I don't like there's some like great moments that Tulsi Gabbard has. We talked about like the moment she had with Kamala Harris in the debate last time.
Oh,
great stuff.
It was great stuff. Felt very libertarian. It felt like libertarianism struck a blow right there. You know what I mean?
Anti-war, yeah.
Yeah.
She has some good anti-war positions on occasion. Yeah, I'm not like a full Tulsi Gabbard fan. She just has some interesting stuff sometimes to me.
Well, look, let's also talk about for a quick second, just to interject, but she was put on the terror watch list, like for a like after she was on a show, made some anti-Kamala remarks. Next day, she ends up on the terror watch list. They're putting federal marshals on a plane with her. Like this,
is that true?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's an absurdity, bro. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy stuff happens. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Gabbard cites political retaliation for her addition to TSA watch list. This is dated August 14th, 2024. State House Republicans defended former colleague, presidential candidate, and U.S. Rep. Tulsi Gabbard in a letter Sunday to the Transportation Secretary. The letter sent to David Pekoski, the TSA director of Washington, D.C., noted that their former Hawaii State House colleague, one of Hawaii's favorite daughters, former congresswoman, former presidential candidate, and combat veteran, Tulsi Gabbard is on your TSA terrorist watch list.
This is like relatively recent.
Oh yeah, bro. Yeah, this is real stuff. Yeah, no, this.
Yeah, like I'm looking this up and like, this is like a few days ago. All right.
Yeah. It's no accident. Tulsi's statement that she gave to the Honolulu Star Advertiser. It is no accident that I was placed on the Quiet Skies list the day after I did a primetime interview warning American people about why Kamala Harris would be bad for our country if elected as president and commander-in-chief. What hurts me the most is the fact that, like so many Americans, I enlisted because of the terrorist attack on 9/11, deployed to war zones to go after those terrorists, still serve in the Army for over 21 years, and now my government is surveilling me as a potential domestic terrorist. The real pain that this has caused me is the stress of forever looking over my shoulder and wondering if and how I am being watched. If she's not doing anything wrong, she's got nothing to worry about. I don't get that whole piece right there. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it is shameful. It's a shameful. We're looking at an administration that is hell bent on surviving. We're looking at an administration. We're looking at a bureaucracy that is determined to participate in lawfare, determined to hurt people that they see as political foes. Once again, they have withdrawn Secret Service protection from Robert F. Kennedy. Like, this is an absurdity. What is going on? It's bizarro world. It's bananas. It's bananas, Kevin.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I mean, well, I mean the I don't know. I guess like I don't know how much Secret Service protection you should get for a suspended campaign, but
he's still on the ballot in 40 states.
So
45 states.
Chase Oliver's going to be on the ballot in 48 states.
Well, he should have Secret Service protection too, and Secret Service style transportation and access to a plane. So, how's that? If we're going to waste
money,
if we're going to waste government money, yeah, I mean, see, and that is an argument that every human being falls into. Like, we can get people to agree that the government wastes way too much money, but then it's like, well, if they're already wasting money on bombing kids overseas, if they're already wasting money on everything under the sun, if they're already borrowing $7 trillion a year, like, what's a few more bucks? Why can't we have what we want? And so it is a trap. I'm going to fall into it every once in a while, especially if I'm criticizing the current administrative bureaucracy that I think I don't know. It's one of the worst I can remember. What do you think about that?
I don't know.
You're looking pensive about that. Like, you're like, I don't know if I do it. Look, I get it, man. It's a challenging situation. I think it's abhorrent what they did to Tulsi. Arguably, the Secret Service protection after a recent assassination attempt. Again, we went over the budget. It's really not that big. I'm okay with it. Put it on RFK. I want him to be safe, and I want him to make a lot of noise.
I mean, fair enough. I don't really have a strong position either way on that issue. I think it made sense when he was going to be on the ballot in a lot of states. He was polling well. Like, I think it made sense then. I entertain an argument now that is less important. But I mean, either way,
you're a way cooler cucumber than I am. But I just want to get your general take on, what do you think about RFK teaming up with Trump? Is there any kind of level of excitement there for you? Like, is there anything in that interests you?
As I've said previously on the show, RFK is not really my thing. I'm not excited about RFK. I don't agree with him ideologically. I don't agree with this vibe. He has so what I see on Twitter today, Richard Hanea is a Dale Gribble vibe. It's not quite my thing. Which, it's a thing, right? It's like this is a guy who is, despite being very close to the levers of power and influential in like the boneheaded policy decisions, including in New York State, has a very anti-establishment vibe. And there's it's a very thin ideology related to that, right? So like the article I was like reading about it was like, okay, people like, Joe Rogan are sort of interested in this. Brett Weinstein, there's sort of a cross ideological alliance against like whatever the establishment is, and you can project a lot of stuff onto that. And my issue with it is that whoever wins that, with RFK, Trump is the same thing. Like, you don't really know what policies you're going to get out of it, but a lot of times it's not smaller government policies. Like, there's libertarians who have like that same like populist anti-establishment vibe, and like the hope is that like that skepticism of people in power leads to like a devolution of power back to the people. But it really often doesn't. And that's my thing with RFK. That's my thing with Trump. And in a lot of other populists.
I've oftentimes railed at populism as a tool for fascism, like as a tool for the end times, as a tool for authoritarianism. It's the same concept, almost the same concept. Like, I could draw some nuanced takes between democracy and populism, but it's the same kind of thing, because we have 50.1%. We get to put our boot on your neck. That's not principled governance. I get what you're saying. I still can't help but be excited about this moment in history where we see something relatively different than what we've seen throughout the years. And RFK is a pretty good speaker, and even if he's reinventing himself, he's presenting his case in a very interesting fashion. And I am anti-establishment. I
Yeah.
try hard to maintain principles, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I
It is
get
hard.
it. It's
On that note,
it's nice
though,
to take a win.
I'm not sure it's a win, but all right, but we'll have to
I know.
debate that later because we have to head the break. Thanks again for joining us here on WYSL. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. Yeah, I know. I just I think it's funny because it's all mixed up in like libertarian politics too, because we didn't talk about this in the show. Libertarian Party politics. We got the Libertarian Party with the joint fundraising committee with RFK Jr. and they're running ads for him, which is weird because there's a Libertarian Party candidate.
I could follow all of those things. I do know that one of our biggest hindrances, regardless of whether our fundraising levels are higher now or lower now, has always been they've never really been adequate to mount an effective campaign against either of the establishment parties, that being pro-establishment or anti-establishment, but being a member or a collaborator in one of the big two parties. We've never really mounted an effective challenge to that. And I know that that's about money. If you buy advertising, you will get attention in news cycles. That's an absolute reality. Like, we can't, especially in this media that is struggling for revenue.
I mean, they'll tell you that if you talk to media companies, they will tell you that the advertising department and the editorial department are completely separate.
Yeah, they're lying.
Yeah, in reality, though, there does seem to be some sort of relationship between the two, and your ability to be able to spend, whether that's by spending money, you grab attention from people who wouldn't otherwise notice you, or it's a pay to play system. Well, it's up to debate and probably different by station. There's some places that are very explicitly like, we will not talk about you unless you buy ads with us.
Right, and they're not. Right. They're not going to admit they're a pay-to-play system. They certainly are going to have safeguards in place that will give them what's called plausible deniability that they're a pay-to-play system. But there is an absolute reality that they're a bunch of lying sophists, and that they are definitely like taking money from people and giving them news coverage. That's an absolute reality. So,
all right, yeah, that's part of it. But so the point is, though, I don't know that it was worth the Libertarian Party doing that, though, when we have our own independent candidate. It wasn't.
Sure.
It was never going to be enough money to do that, and spending money on an opposing political candidate this time is not gonna.
Sure.
It's not going to move the needle. And on top of all the various conflicts of interest, I'm worried that what's going to happen is Trump's going to win. RFK Jr. is going to get appointed to some cabinet position. And then because he is a member of the Libertarian Party, they can be like, look, see, I told you I'd put a libertarian in a cabinet position. Hooray.
Oh, big win. I didn't even think about that. That's pretty likely, actually. That's a well played scenario. Look, I get it. There's to me a fundamental flaw in the libertarian philosophy, in that, or the Libertarian Party politics, in that the absolute goal should always be, sign up for the Libertarian Party. Yeah, your views aren't perfect. Yeah, come to a meeting. Yeah, give us a few dollars in dues. That is the goal. That's how the GOP and the DNC did it. That's what we're missing. We go to philosophy first. I get it, but it's never going to be a successful strategy. Never. I'm sorry. It's just not going to work. So the gatekeeping that I saw in 2020 and 2022 is exactly what gave rise to the Mises Caucus, and exactly what then the gatekeepers left and went someplace else. And it's like, you did this to yourselves. Like, be friendly, be fun, relax. Your ideas are great.
Yeah,
keep persuading people.
Yeah, the gatekeepers are worried that these people would come in and just endorse Trump, and
Sure, and that's fair. That's totally
and that's
fair,
what
and that
happened.
and that can totally happen. Yeah,
It
yeah.
totally happened. It did happen.
But what do you mean it happened? Like that they let him speak at our convention?
Not only let him speak, but like the chair is actively campaigning for Trump. Like, yeah, it's the Angela McArdle is out there like talking up Donald Trump, talking about how we want him to win, how it's a libertarian victory if he wins, and that the only reason to support Chase Oliver's campaign is to take away votes from, well, she was saying Biden at the time, but like the Democrats. Yeah,
Sure.
like like there's a, and she was on Austin Peterson's show basically talking about how, she wants Trump to win.
Well, Peterson wants Trump to win. That's for
sure.
He's
a Republican.
Yeah.
And this is the chair of the National Libertarian Party.
Well, arguably, my point still stands is that the gatekeepers gave rise to the Mises Caucus, whether they like it or not. Okay. That they did not maintain an air of friendliness and enjoyability and drove people away and made it ripe for a takeover. Now they redid that action and got Chase nominated. So congratulations. You know what I mean? That's how this works. Unless we focus on the goal of growth. That's how it's going to work. Unless we have party power and people who are enjoying themselves in this process. That's it. That's where it's at.
Yeah.
Being as a guy that used to manage restaurants, being as a guy that used to be in the hospitality business, that's how this works. So, it's okay. I have a blast. I watch the cycles. It's great. You know what I mean? Like, how else do we fix it?
I know. I have ideas.
we do a radio show and we have a good time with our crew. We have a good time with the people that we talk to, and we do our best to maintain philosophical principles while having a good time. So that's one way to do it, It
is. So have a good time. Well, speaking of the radio show we're supposed to be doing, we should probably get back to that. Yeah, eventually.
All right, fair enough.
So do you want to talk about the Telegram thing next?
Oh, we got to talk about this. We gotta.
No, so we'll talk about that, and then maybe we'll talk about Meta. I think those will kind of work well together.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go in just a couple of seconds. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Ken Wilshire today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Marion O'Connor.
I'm here, brother. How are you? We had a WSL audience. We had a spirited debate in between the off time from the radio show. We appreciate the heck out of you guys, but we'd love to have you join Kevin and I. You could subscribe to Tim O'Connor at Facebook. I think it only costs like $1 a month. I'll split that cash with Kevin, and we'll both get rich.
There we go. What you're really selling it, Tim. No, stay for the interesting conversation. Stay for us to, talking about a little bit more about, RFK Jr. and also about some of the stuff going on with the Libertarian Party on a national level too, and just discussion about growing like libertarian ideology.
Yeah.
And so lots of that happening in between. You're missing out on some content, so make sure you go find our podcast and subscribe. To Tim's page too. Check it out. So we do have other stuff to talk about too. We want to talk about what's going on with the French government arresting the founder of Telegram, Pavel Durov.
Yeah, and look, I'll be the first to admit, Kevin, we're going to get into a libertarian conundrum here. Like, there's an issue with Telegram that is probably very real. It's interesting in that it is the ultimate privacy platform available in the world today, which allows people to communicate in countries where they're having like human rights issues, where they're literally being able to communicate about their safety and about troop movements to keep them out of harm's way. Like, that's kind of a pretty big deal. It's kind of a pretty cool thing where those communications in between two people cannot be intercepted by a government agency. Like, that's amazing.
Encrypted peer-to-peer discussion. 100%.
Dude, This dude has taken that on. He has made it the driving force behind Telegram. He gets off of a plane in France, and here we are.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I kind of want to turn the floor over to you for a minute, but like there's maybe you'll get to the problems, but I'll get to the problems if you don't.
No, well, so let's just we'll kind of talk about like the history of it, right? So we talked about what Telegram was. This isn't the first kind of encrypted messaging service this guy had started either. He had started another company in Russia, which got shut down by the Russian government because they don't really like people being able to speak freely. It's a V-Contacta, and he. They didn't like people like the Libertarian Party of Russia having discussions outside of the government's purview. And so he had moved to Dubai. He got French citizenship, and the Iranian government, when he had founded Telegram, they shut down access to Telegram. They tried to ban it in their country. The Chinese government also banned Telegram and all peer-to-peer encrypted chat services in their country too, because they don't want their citizens to be able to speak freely. And what France ended up arresting him for is because we've talked about like how they have a different approach to both speech and regulation of digital technology in France. And so they require certain things of any companies operating within their borders. They require a certain level of moderation, and they require, being able to access certain messages for kind of criminal investigation purposes. And they basically arrested him on that. So, Tim, do you want to talk about the conundrum part of it?
Yeah, the conundrum is that there are people exchanging child pornography on Telegram, right? Like there is a market for these evil things that travel through our society where the communications themselves justifiably can be interpreted as harm, right? That if there was no demand for child porn, there would be no children being harmed. So if there is a demand and you're sharing that stuff, you are complicit in a crime. I, even as a libertarian, can see the wisdom in that. Like it's reprehensible.
Oh, sure. I mean, for the individuals doing it.
Yeah, for the individuals doing it. Right.
Is the platform liable for people conducting criminal activity over the platform? And the French government, as well as the Russian, Iranian, Chinese government, said yes, you are, because if you don't moderate that content and intervene in criminal investigations, then you are functionally liable for this. And this is something we fight about in the United States: is Facebook liable for every stupid thing that you post on there? That no, they're not. This is like how we operate in the United States.
Sure.
This is the Section 230 debate.
Sure.
Basically. But yeah, in France, like you as a company are liable for the content that takes place, even though you're just creating something, the same way like kind of Silk Road is as well. Like it isn't necessarily like a fundamentally criminal like tool, but it is a tool that criminals could use to participate in nefarious activity. And if this nefarious activity is conducted in a way that makes it harder for governments to track and get evidence and get convictions for criminal activity, then governments are going to be upset with this.
Yeah. And so his basic premise, as the story gets told, is that he has denied offering backdoors to investigatory agencies to offer them access to any communications.
If there's a backdoor, it's not really encrypted. I mean, and if he is offering any backdoors, then that's a problem. Then your platform is compromised, and you shouldn't trust it. And I don't remember was it Telegram that were they the ones who had that issue with that a while back, or is that what's the other one? I might be forgetting.
Signal?
It might be Signal.
Signal's another one that's supposed to be encrypted from end to end. So, and look, they went after Apple to try to get a backdoor into Apple products. They went after, they have backdoors into Microsoft products. Like that was willing, if I understand it correctly, the backdoors into Liberty safes. Remember that? Like that to me was probably very egregious. I don't care, like that's an issue of possession is not a crime, right? This, except for when it comes to child pornography, right? So we get into this
Oh, sure,
here I go again. But yeah, like you're participating in the creation of child pornography by viewing child pornography. So I'm okay with that. That if there is a philosophical hair to split, I'm okay with it.
I mean, I'd say like again, to me, like I don't see that as if you emailed someone child porn, like Gmail is not liable for that content. I mean, they
Right.
try to like crack down on that stuff, but like I wouldn't see that as like using an email platform. Is the internet service provider liable for crimes that you commit using your internet connection? No, I don't think they are, nor should they be. Right. Because then that puts them in the position, whether it's the ISP, whether it's email, whether it's a social platform like Facebook or a messaging service like Telegram. I think if people commit crimes, then those people are liable for their crimes. The service, which is useful in a whole bunch of different ways that aren't just criminal activity, shouldn't be put in a position of having to censor and monitor every single one of their users' communications because one of them might be committing a crime.
Right. Now, does the government still have a way of gaining access to a child pornography spreader's account? I think that the answer is yes. I think that he would provide information if they were offered a subpoena on a specific person. I could be incorrect.
I don't know about Telegram specifically because some companies like it is no, like, so this is the problem with like Apple, right? So what happened was there's a person who had committed a terrorist act out in California, and they wanted to get access to an iPhone, and the government said, you need to do this, or you need to give us a backdoor. And Apple's like, we cannot do it because if we created a backdoor, that means that hackers could find a backdoor. It's not just a backdoor for us. It's not just a backdoor for you. Someone could find a way to get into this. So when we mean it's encrypted, we mean it's fully encrypted. You can't get into that phone if the owner doesn't want you to get into it. And that's a trade-off of like kind of freedom and privacy. It's like we can make this very, very secure. And the trade-off is that like you can't get into that even if it's something important. Now, again, you can there are different ways that governments have to be able to access individual phones, like outside of this specific iPhone situation. You can subpoena that. You can get access to the phone. You can get access to other records from other companies. Like chances are there's a digital footprint that exists outside of that. But I'm okay, especially in situations like there's like a very practical use for this type of like encryption technology, the peer-to-peer encrypted messaging, and that's in governments like Russia, in Iran, in anywhere where your speech is like actually very threatened, where you can go to jail for having the wrong political opinion. You should be able to share that opinion with others and discuss and coordinate and do whatever you need to do in a secure way. There's going to be risk with that. There's going to be risk that people are going to use that to spread, promote, and coordinate terrorism. There's going to be a risk that people do nasty things with it, like child pornography. But I think that the technology has an upside, and it's worth protecting private conversations, and that there are other ways of engaging and going after criminal activity that happens to take place on a phone.
I'm all right with your take. Your take is I was tempted, right, to say if they suspected somebody of child pornography, if they disseminating child pornography, I was tempted. It's such an offensive thing. So
it is. It is,
I think
and
your point's good.
Like I said, it's one of those things where like, yeah, I get it. And if like a company, like they're not fully encrypted, then yeah, with a subpoena, they should turn over information. They should do that. But if like you're like, this needs to be secure because, people from the Russian government are trying to get into these chats to like, discover their political enemies. And it's really important that we don't have a backdoor into this. Yeah, I get it. Like that's what
I would say,
or like again, they're using this in like wartime settings too, which is interesting. People use that as secure communication channels on both sides of the Russian-Ukraine conflict.
yeah, Russian dissidents are communicating with other Russian dissidents on Telegram. The Ukrainian dissidents are communicating with other Ukrainian dissidents. There is people in those two countries that are not, of course, absolutely, of course, there's people in those two countries that are not in favor of more war. So, you know, they should have the right to communicate without the government being able to access their communications and throw them in jail for disagreeing with the government. I caught a tweet from Zelensky, bro. Man, I know he's our U.S. darling, our NATO darling, but he is an authoritarian. And like, he's talking about cracking down on Ukrainian dissidents who are anti-war. And that concerns me. I want people to be allowed to be anti-war. Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's fair. That's that. I'm with you on that. It's worthy of criticism. You should be able to be critical of war in a country that's at war.
Yeah,
it's really important. And as I said, when I mean free speech all the time, even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous, even when it's something I find reprehensible.
Yeah, even like, because like I was the the libertarian college when we were doing our antebellum Civil War classes, and we were talking about how Abraham Lincoln suspended habeas corpus and like would shut down like anti-war protests. And I'm like, no, that's wrong. He shouldn't have done it. They're like, yeah, but like, they're supporting the South. I'm like, yeah, no, some of them were, some of them weren't. Some of them just thought that the war was unjust and they should have the right to say that without going to jail. But no, it undermined the war effort. If the Union was committed to the principles America was founded on, they would allow them to do that. Like that Abraham Lincoln made a mistake there. Sorry.
Yeah, he did. Look, a lot of people make jokes, point out there's flaws in some of Lincoln's policy. And I think you hit on a good one right there.
Yeah. So we Tim, I don't think we were going to get to the meta stuff. So maybe we can jump into that next segment because we have about 30 seconds left. But just to give the WISL audience a preview of that, we're going to talk about a letter that Mark Zuckerberg sent to Jim Jordan about how that company responded to government pressure to censor content, and both on the COVID side and on election sides. So we're going to be back in just a few minutes here on a free solution on WISL. Talk to you soon.
All right. So apparently the subscribe button is not all the way live, even though Mr. now in favor of free speech, Mark Zuckerberg, and the Facebook algorithm reached out to me and said, you know what you should do? You should make your personal page a bastion of your thought, and we will support you in doing that. Like, that's literally the concept that they gave me. They're like, you can monetize certain content, you can ask for subscribers, and I jumped through all the hoops, and like Elon Musk, being suppressed. Like, it's obnoxious.
Gosh darn it. Well,
they don't want to.
I mean, I might have another way for people to be able to support the show.
All right.
If you want, you can go to our Spotify page, and there's an option to support the podcast. So if you like what you're hearing, and you wants to do more of this, wants to help get this out to other folks, go to the link that I'm going to be putting in the live chat if you are watching our live version of the show. But it's just our profile page. It's spotify.com/pod/show/a free solution. And from there, you'll see a support the show option, and it'll say, hey, would you like to support the show for 99 cents a month, or $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month?
Oh, you get to choose how much you're willing to give. That's pretty cool, because for Facebook and for X, you have to choose an amount, and like, hopefully people are willing to pay that. We got a pretty awesome question from our buddy Joe out there.
Yeah, I did see that. So
I actually don't understand why more libertarians are not supporting Donald Trump. He is the most libertarian out of the two candidates running, and you have one that is a communist. RFK understands it. I'm gonna I hate splitting hairs, and yet I love to split hairs, Kevin. So I'm gonna split hairs with our buddy Joe a little bit. And first of all, Kamala is not a communist. She's a liar. There's a difference. She's absolutely a corporatist, a fascist, and sells her soul to big pharma. Okay, let's. She is arguably Donald Trump, but more pro-war. But the differences are when we get into their differences, Joe, I think that's where we get to splitting hairs. Now, I'm with you. I do think Donald Trump did some things that were incredibly important that mobilized the system to eviscerate him in 2020. Okay. And I do think it was chicanery. I do think that the GOP hasn't answered it. So after November 5th, we're going to see a lot of regret and mean tweets about how they got screwed again. But they haven't responded to the way that the field has changed. So I'm with you. I like Donald Trump more. I'm not supporting him. I think Chase Oliver's got sounder principles, period. So I don't know, Kevin, you want to comment on that? You want me to put it back up?
Yeah, sure. And we'll put it back up just so folks can see the comment if you're watching our live stream. I don't think that Trump is more libertarian. I think that Trump and Harris are authoritarian in different ways, and that's kind of I know people want me to pick a side all the time. But I've been doing this. I said the same thing in 2020. I said in 2016. Gary Johnson had a similar line when said, gun to your head, who do you support, Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton? And he said, pull the trigger.
Yeah, it was
and
pretty bold line, really.
Yeah. And so listen, Donald Trump is authoritarian in ways that are, some of the economic stuff. He's bad on tariffs. He's bad on, I don't like the January 6th stuff. I think he does try to fill government positions with people who are loyal to him rather than people who can fulfill the job. I think that's bad. Kamala does that a little bit too, but to a lesser extent.
Kimberly Cheatle was an appointment by the Biden administration, and I think she was incompetent.
Oh yeah, no, sure. There's a whole bunch of really incompetent people.
And she's they're buddies. There's a straight. I wish I could remember the details. Of it,
to be clear, both sides do this. But, but there's some stuff that's redeemable about Trump. He was a little bit better on the regulatory side, right? Okay, great. I know there's a Soho Forum debate about Donald Trump being the most libertarian candidate, where Dr. Laffer tries to make the argument that he's actually pro free trade. I don't believe that. But he is better on the regulatory side. And then Kamala Harris, she's to the extent she has any discernible economic policy, it seems to be left wing. It seems to be authoritarian. I still kind of suspect it's all vibes and kind of nothing will happen, but we'll see. At least on the price gouging thing, but the Biden administration did take action on student loans. Her redeeming qualities are she seems to actually get, if we build more houses, the cost of housing will go down. And there is a government subsidy part of this, which I don't like, but there's also hey, we need to find ways to incentivize local governments to make it easier to build housing. Mm-hmm. All kinds of housing, single family housing, apartments, etc. And I would love to see the Democrats do more of that. That would be great. So they have both have a smidge of hey, here's some things that could go in a libertarian direction. Kamala's also a little bit more pro marijuana. Trump is a little bit more right to try on the pharmaceutical side and medical transparency.
He kind of killed it on that though. I thought he actually introduced ideas that threatened big pharma. That's how I see it.
And then actually he had the First Step Act, which I thought was great in terms of criminal justice reform. So I'll say a nice thing, like he had like a handful of things that are really good. Kamala is going to have a similar handful of things that I agree with. But who knows where that's going to go. I don't see them as like fundamentally one better than the other. It's like, do you want like the grouchy authoritarian who occasionally does good things, or the fun, joyful authoritarian who occasionally does, good things?
I don't know. Like I get Shelley's vibe right here. The National Libertarian Party can't even get ballot access, and the Democrats scare me.
To be fair, the Chase campaign, despite the National Libertarian Party's like active interference, like sabotage, trying to get him off the ballot in Colorado, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, New Hampshire, they still got on the ballot. The Chase campaign, they had it together. The only two they couldn't overcome were New York State, and Illinois.
Well, that's actually fantastic news. And like I said, he actually has principles that I agree with. He has platform positions that I don't hate. Reluctantly, I mean, what the heck, I got to think about my options here. Like, I like Trump for the same reason that Make America Great people like Trump. I like Trump's things that he did that were libertarian. I liked when the entire neocon world was trying to crap on him. I liked that. Like, that was cool because I hate those people. And
that's just the anti-authoritarian vibes, though. It's just
anti-establishment vibes.
Anti-establishment.
I know.
The anti-establishment vibes, like, oh, okay, like the bad people don't like him, so therefore he must be good. That, to me, that's not a good enough reason.
Oh, no, but it was because he was trying to take military actions in places by moving troops around and stuff like that. And the entire neocon world crapped on him and said he was crazy for doing whatever he wanted to do. And it all basically worked out the way that he wanted it to work out. And I don't have the details, but my memory is infallible on stuff like this, Kevin.
I don't think that Trump was as good on foreign policy as a bunch of people give him credit for. And like the best argument I've heard for Trump, like, is if you accept a little bit of neocon like ideology of like, he is so hard to read that is a legitimate foreign policy strategy, that, hey, Trump could do anything from nothing to like nuking you. And therefore we should like exercise caution in our dealings with the United States because his threats might not be idle. We don't believe Biden's threats. Donald Trump is just crazy enough to like maybe do something. That's what he tries to project. And
it's okay. Like that.
Yeah,
I get it.
And so sometimes he did act on stuff, like he did like intervene in some situations, not by creating new wars, but by escalating the ones that already existed. With greater drone strikes. Joe Biden, to his credit, which the libertarian right doesn't want to give Joe Biden any credit for, stopped the drone strikes. Like, just they went to like almost nothing, and he did end the war in Afghanistan. I know that's something Trump tried to do, and the deep state stopped him, but like Joe Biden did it. It was a mess, but he did it.
No, Trump initiated that agreement. I think that there's the gamesmanship of saying Joe Biden was an incompetent leader, that because he's so incompetent and the people that he appointed to positions are so incompetent, the withdrawal from Afghanistan was a mess. But Trump initiated that agreement, and that's what Biden said when it went sideways. He's like, well, I had to follow through on the agreement that Trump made. Well, and in his 1 hour of cognizance back in 2021, when he decided to do it, like that. So whatever. We're as libertarians, we are not getting the government that we want, and we're not getting the government that we deserve, because we're actually pretty cool.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, we've gone on quite a long.
All right.
Again, we're 10 minutes in. I'm gonna say we're gonna go back in 5 seconds, and we're gonna talk about the Facebook stuff.
We got it.
So, all right, go. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Barrier O'Connor.
I'm here, brother. And again, WSL audience, we love you guys, but you're missing out on some of the show. Kevin and I had another spirited discussion. I was pro-Trump. He was pro-Kamala Harris. And none of that is true. None of that is true. But arguably, Kevin, another wild event though this week. I'm not even going to let you respond to my my nonsense there. Look, another wild event this week, okay? Oh my God. Mark Zuckerberg sent a letter to Jim Jordan explaining and detailing some of the things that we already knew were true. But he does not want to participate in such reprehensible behavior in the future. Those are my words, not necessarily his.
No, I mean, I have the letter open. I can read it if you want, or you can read it if you have it open.
Yeah.
So this is a letter to Jim Jordan. It's from Meta, and so I'll read a bunch of this. It said, "There's a lot of talk right now around how the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta, and I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect. Blah blah blah." And then it says, okay, in 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, reportedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think that we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't have made today. Like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from the administration in either direction, and we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. And then he talks about the situation with the Hunter Biden laptop story.
Yeah,
and says we basically they were waiting for a fact check, so they demoted this story while the fact check was happening. Like literally, like you couldn't share it in Facebook Messenger even.
That was wild. That felt like a very invasion of privacy when someone sent it to me and they're like, attachment not available, and they had to try to explain to me what it was. Like, that was wild, dude. That was really inappropriate. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I just had to jump in there.
Yeah, I mean, and again, this is kind of worth reading. It says, just in a separate occasion, the FBI warned us about potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to 2020 election. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent the story to fact checkers to review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It has since been made clear that reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. We've changed our policies and processes to make sure this doesn't happen again. For instance, we are no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers.
Yeah. Look, when they said 51 former U.S. intelligence agents think that this is Russian disinformation, the Freedom variant knew that it was in fact real. That was all the confirmation that I needed. It reminded me of Hillary
Tim's like, I got a gut feeling about this, guys. It's fine.
It was like, no, it was exactly the same game that Hillary Clinton played when she said 17 intelligence agencies of the U.S. government think that this Donald Trump peed on a bed in a Moscow hotel, okay, like, or some other.
That one was.
I'm mixing and matching stories now, but that doesn't matter, Kevin. That's not important. What's important is that she was lying, she was exaggerating. All of the intelligence agencies were basically like looped under one umbrella, and she just wanted that number, a big number, and it's like. I was actually like, there's 17 spy agencies in the government. That's crazy. Like, and everybody else is like, see, like Donald Trump's a psychopath. And I'm like, Hillary Clinton is a liar, guys. Like, it kind of went that way. Yeah. I was still kind of a Trump supporter back then, even though I was like, this is not the best that we can do, but it is what we're doing. So here we go.
Yeah. So, I want to get to this comment just because, so we read the full letter, most of the letter from Mark Zuckerberg. And how he responded to these actions and has now taken action to change policy at his company about how future things are going to be responded to and how they reject even the U.S. government's pressure to try to censor and change policies in terms of what content is allowed on their platform. Joe on YouTube says, I saw the letter from Mark Zuckerberg. What he did was inexcusable and unforgivable. He should resign as CEO of Facebook, or the board should fire him. I disagree, Joe. I think that like it is good when people own up to their mistakes and take concrete steps to correct their actions. And I'd rather someone like Mark Zuckerberg like do that, admit his mistakes, fix stuff, than to have someone else go in that like hasn't had these lessons yet and may cave to that government pressure. Like I'm hoping that Mark Zuckerberg's like, yep, that was dumb. We shouldn't have done that. And like we're gonna be better next time. And he has the guts to do it.
Yeah. All right. So Joe's doing a great job of finding slight variances in what Kevin and I see as reality. What I think Mark Zuckerberg did, it like his omission or his admission is still an omission. Okay, because there was a time, Kevin, where our radio show was very popular on Facebook. There was a time where my lives brought in 20, 30, 40, 50 people to have conversations and leave comments and stuff like that. And at the time he started answering the call of the government, Larry's show crashed. My show crashed. The Radio Free New York crashed. Like he's not admitting all of the things that he did. He's not admitting all of the suppression that he pulled off. And not all of it had to do with Facebook. Not all of it had to do with COVID or COVID misinformation. He propped up messaging that condemned the Great Barrington Declaration, and it was absurd. The Great Barrington Declaration was a very reasonable critique of COVID policy, and he allowed bolstered, expanded information that made those guys look like kooks, and they weren't kooks. So here we go. Like again, it's like we're splitting hairs.
So,
but he didn't.
We're not splitting hairs in this case, though. Like you're making an accusation.
Yeah, I definitely.
And I don't know that we know the truth of that. Like it's just.
I do. It's just like knowing that 51 intelligence agents condemn this as a Russian disinformation psyop. It's what happened, what changed, and the algorithm changed to keep independent voices from making noise. To me, it was obvious. We were cool, Kevin. We were popular.
And we were super popular, and our show started getting less viewers because of Zuckerberg.
Exactly.
It's all his fault, and no one else's. It's not,
Exactly. Thank you. Yes, I agree.
Thank goodness we have someone to blame for our lack of resounding success. It's Zuckerberg.
Or the government. In this case, it was the government influencing Zuckerberg. It fits my conspiracy theorist mind perfectly. There you go.
Yeah, it feels right. It
does. It feels good.
Yeah, that's fine. Like, we'll just go off of vibes. Yeah, like it's not that I could have made better content and grown my audience more. It's
sure. But okay, so arguably, if our content was doing well, and the vibe in society changed, fine. But did it? I don't know. Like there was a pretty anti-establishment vibe back then. And that certainly the anti-establishment vibe was certainly suppressed on Facebook. Like
so there was certain types of content that like they've talked about how they changed their algorithm around like certain types of political content. Like so they did two things. Like one was they made it so that engagements with angry reactions didn't necessarily boost that to more people.
Right.
And they did suppress like generally all political content a little bit. And so like that this is somewhat true. I know I was mocking you as conspiracy theorists, but the reason why they did it is basically because they found that people who would engage with political content, there'd be a bunch of people who would engage a lot, but then people who didn't engage with it much but saw that political content frequently would spend less time on the platform than if they saw a news feed that was mostly like photos of friends and family and like pages that they liked.
Sure.
It kind of comes down to ads. It's
pretty
just like,
convenient, Kevin.
Yeah, because they're like, if this person goes on and they see that 30, 40, 50% of their content feed is just people talking about the 2020 election, they're just going to log off. Like literally my wife did this too. She's like, yeah, my newsfeed sucks right now. I'm just going to like uninstall the app. And Facebook knew that this was happening. So they're like, okay, so we're going to suppress the political stuff, even though it gets high engagement for the people who are interested in this. And then just show people like the fun, happy stuff because they stay on the platform longer. And then when they stay on the platform longer, we could show them more ads. Like, that's it. It's just, it's not ideological. It's all about money. Like for better or worse, it doesn't necessarily make it better. It's just is.
I don't know, Kevin. I'm going to give you like, okay, I guess, and roll my eyes a little bit, but fine. Look, I did run a couple polls as I am like occasionally like to do. That was something that we used to have on Facebook, by the way, was a polling option. You could
Yeah,
set
they
up
did get rid of
polls
that.
on your
It's
post, and they got rid of it. And man, my polls on X are killing it. Anyway, so I did ask a question: does Zark Zuckerberg really regret being a government toad? Uh, Obviously, displaying some bias in the question, but does Mark Zuckerberg really regret being a government toad? A resounding 82% of the people out of 453 voters do not believe that he actually regrets being a government toad. Some of them have pointed to the fact that Facebook was funded by the CIA to get started. That there has long been a collaboration between, mind control manipulation and, social media, that this is the part of the DARPA project. I don't know. Some of this stuff I haven't even researched, so I'm not like going to sound like a good, solid conspiracy theorist on it, but it rings true to me. I'm fine with it.
Thanks, true. Has some truthiness to
The
it.
vibe,
Yeah.
it's true. Yeah, it's truthiness. The vibe is saying,
you know, that's again, I tend to view things as I am reflexively like anti-conspiracy theory, because most of the time the explanations end up being like fairly simple. Like I take an Occam's razor approach. It's not like complicated CIA wanted to start social media to monitor everyone. It's some dudes wanted to make money, and then they like, bungled their way to eventually doing that through Facebook.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. I did.
It's not that it can't like be useful for that other stuff, like by
Sure.
happenstance, but
Correct. And like legitimately, some of Facebook's founding money came from a government program that was linked to the CIA. You and I discussed it on the show. I had the details then. I don't have them now, but it's not. I'm not making it up. Like some of the funding for Facebook did come from a CIA adjacent funding organization. That's an absolutely real story, which is, I mean, it's it kind of feels right.
No, it's something that could be true. And again, I still tend to think like this letter from Mark Zuckerberg is a step in the right direction. It's not like the real test is going to be like next time though, right?
Sure.
Next time we have a pandemic, next time we have a war, next time we have this year with the election, like do they actually do the right thing? And
let me flip the script a little bit. Like, what if the next pandemic, the government is lying to us and trying to tell us that it's not that serious, and people on Facebook are saying, "Hey, look, my all of my neighborhood is dead right now."
That's how COVID started. Like, it's weird. That's how COVID started, where a bunch of people are like, hey, I think this is actually more serious than we're thinking. And Nancy Pelosi's like, no, Trump is being racist, calling it a China virus. Go out and celebrate Chinese New Year. Get out in the streets. Don't wear a mask. Like
she did go marching down. She's such a virtue signaling.
It's a weird thing. That was like February of 2020 was all the Democrats saying like, don't listen to the government. Get out in the streets.
And man, they managed to flip that script then too. They are completely impressive with their ability to flip scripts and then get everyone on message. I don't know how they intellectually deal with their own integrity. Like, how did they deal with their integrity when they can just flip on a dime? Like Joe Biden is fine and cognizant to, hey, buddy, Thanks a lot. Like, I don't know how they do that. There's something in their
Tim, lying's
personalities that
okay if you
allows a behavior that I cannot fathom. I just can't fathom it.
Tim, lying's okay if you have good intentions.
Is that what it is? All right.
It's fine as long as you mean well. Then everything's great.
All right.
All right. So on that fun note, we have to call it a show for our WYSL audience. We may continue talking for a few minutes longer on the live stream, but thank you, WSL listeners, for being with us today on A Free Solution. Talk to you next week.
I did have another Twitter poll to talk about. I did want to talk about this during the show, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to it. I should have. But the market needs a competitor to keep everyone honest, right? So, 8 guys can act in collusion. You can have one competitor. The market has to get better for everyone if you have at least one competitor. So, I did ask a question on Twitter, like, did Musk's dedication to free speech compel Zuckerberg to become more transparent? And basically, I put LOL as an answer because a lot of my friends on Twitter are very similar conspiracy minded to me. So that is actually leading. But then, about split 25% to 29% no versus yes. So I do like the possibility that there was a free market at play here, that Zuckerberg saw some real competition from Musk and decided that he had to kind of open up to the American people, open up to his potential market, if you will. What do you think about that? Like, it's no matter what, it's tenuous. No matter what, I know it's not a perfect analogy, but what do you think about that? Is that a possibility?
It could be true, and if not like market forces, then like it might have just been like, what, they're right. They should be doing the right thing. So there might be something to that. I will say, like, Twitter usership is still like hasn't quite recovered from like when Musk took over, but we'll see how that trends moving forward.
All right. Is it on since you're kind of, that's your business, is it seem to be trending upwards, or is it plateaued?
It's gone down and then like sort of plateaued.
Okay.
Facebook for its part is still like they plateaued / been going down. Reddit's like one of the platforms that's growing. That's
wild. I don't even know how Reddit works, to be perfectly honest. And then like whenever I go there, it's like, how do I find stuff I want to talk to people about? And I don't get an answer. And like I can't just like tweet into the void and find people that commiserate with me.
I mean, you could sort of do that. It just needs to be like it's just longer form, is all. You could like it's more like post like a several sentence like rant or question in like whatever community you want, a subreddit you want to be a part of, and maybe people respond. And
I don't want to commit to any kind of communities. That doesn't make sense to me. I don't want to be part of a community, man. Like,
you just want to be an individual shit poster. That's
that's
the move.
Yeah, that's the move. That's my move right there.
Let's see.
Yeah, so I can't believe Musk screwed me out of this broadcast. Like my account, it's heating up again. Like it went on this, like, I think I got disinterested. B, like there's a certain amount of interaction on Twitter that really feeds the algorithm that will boost a smaller account, right? And it's like you got to try to reply to people, which I like to do, but sometimes like work comes first, and so if I'm getting 10 comments and I respond to none of them, the algorithm seems to punish you. Now, this is an intuitive analysis, Kevin, which I am literally a professional at intuitive analysis. That's why I want you to know when I say things like whatever I said that you disagreed with, that it was an intuitive analysis.
Professional intuitive analyzer.
Yeah.
Got that gut feeling.
Yeah.
Trust me, bro.
Dirk Gently, the holistic detective, comes to mind right now.
I do love those books.
Yeah. Wild fun time, a little hoax happened on the old X platform. And I'm not sure what part of it's a hoax, but like some stuff came out about RFK selling someone coke in college, and somebody posted a video that went wildly viral of a dude having a conversation about selling coke that was recorded on a computer, and they're like, "See, this is RFK selling coke," and then they were like, "Psych, that's Hunter Biden from his laptop," and it was pretty epic, pretty funny, and it was legitimately from the Hunter Biden laptop.
That's
And
funny.
so I don't know if RFK has actually sold coke or not, but like, if Trump's in jail and RFK is a coke dealer, I mean, my vote's a lock. It's a given. It's done.
It's fine. Wait,
It's
did you see the RFK? You saw the bear story. Did you see the whale story about RFK Jr.?
No, I did not.
Oh, so his daughter was talking about how like one of the activities they used to do is they used to like collect animal skulls. Like that was just like a thing that they did. And, like they're interested in biology.
So Kennedy. Jesus.
Right. So
say it.
And so like, okay, sure. Yeah. I guess if you find a raccoon skull, you know, in the woods or something, it's interesting and you can learn about biology or whatever. But so apparently they found a beached whale. It was dead.
Okay.
They chainsawed its head off and threw it on a car, and it was like oozing stuff on the highway.
I gotta tell you that this may surprise you, and this may surprise everybody, but when it comes to grotesque things, I'll see the start or the first couple sentences. Intuitively, I know where it's going, and I'm like, I'm
like,
out of
nope,
there. I'm doom scrolling. I'm done. So I saw something about a whale skull and whale guts, and I just was like, see you later, suckers. I got nothing for this. Nothing. So thank you for finishing that story. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Does
She,
feel
like she was telling it, and like it sounded like she was telling it like a charming story, but people were like, "Holy crap, that's not normal."
I mean,
it's one
feels
thing. Again, it's one thing if you find like a raccoon skull in the woods or something, or the deer skull, and you're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
like look at this. It's kind of interesting."
Yeah.
To chainsaw a whale is crazy, and then throw it on your car.
I am willing to do lots of things that make me laugh, right? But at no point would going up to the carcass of a dead stinky whale and taking a chainsaw to it be on those list of things. Like,
Yeah.
it
Now,
just
hopefully this
wouldn't
like
happen.
I've told this story. Hopefully it doesn't turn out to be not true, but because
I
it's
think
funny. But
it
like I
sounds
saw it go around like quite a few times in reputable places. I was like, that's bizarre. That's a weird thing to do.
And so,
The worm in his brain probably gave him the whale.
all right, yeah.
Also interested in this Dark Closet of Mine. I had AI write you a song. I'm working on versions. Send a draft. We'll check those out.
I'll check that out, man. I appreciate that. We do that. Yeah, that's awesome. Kevin, I still got to find that song my buddy Mark Jordan sent me for my campaign stuff, so we could play that on here once in a while. I'm not exactly sure where it is, but it was so freaking awesome. Like it, and I used to play it on my show. Like it was cool.
I find it. I mean,
he wrote me too, and I lost track of him. Like changing computers or whatever.
Yeah, I said if we can get some like good AI generated bumper music that we can use on social and on radio, that'd be fun because I've had the same like 10 bumpers since like when did I start this? Like 2018, something like that.
Yeah.
2018, 2019. So yeah, it's been the same ones. Which is it's fine. It's good enough. The only thing that's changed is the intro from Radio Free New York to a free solution.
Right. The intro's killer, dude. Like that Savage.
Yeah, it's Bob Savage.
Yeah, putting that together. That was pretty. That's pretty.
Yeah, I wrote the words and he read it, and like his delivery was excellent.
Yeah, it was really good. And then we still got this Australian guy. Do you remember this one?
Family, why are you here today? I'm here today for the essential freedom of human beings. The same reason I went to East Timor. The same reason I served there. I served the people of East Timor in Australia for their independence and their freedom. And if you think back to the 1990s, the East Timorese were screaming for freedom, and they fought and they fought and they fought and they got their freedom. And
You can unmute yourself, Kevin. Do you remember this one?
After I'd served my time,
No, I'm like, I know it's been sitting in there. I don't remember even where it's from anymore.
But I thought I'd relax and retire.
I hope I caught on
But
Twitter.
this is something we can no longer ignore this. It's garbage. I was at the first march, proud to be there. The second march, people were afraid. And fear just means false evidence of hearing real.
Pause it. What was it from?
We'll face everything.
In Australian COVID
World War
protest,
II
if I remember correctly.
He knows what fear is. There's nothing wrong with fear. There's nothing wrong with anxiety. Courage is just having fear, but still doing what you know the right thing to do is, even when you're afraid. That's a simple definition.
That guy just nailed it, man.
Yeah,
He was just like on. He had his moment. He went kind of semi-viral, but not as viral as like the whole world should hear that guy's like.
Yeah, no, it's because Australia they really locked down. Things were great in a lot of U.S. states, but Australia
opened the camps, brother. Like, holy fuck. All right, man. It's late. I appreciate it. I had a good show. I had fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And in terms of type of music, we're up there. I like rock,
I like country.
So we can something there. I'm sure we can find something. If you make something, we'll at least play it. We'll figure it out.
For sure, man.
So love it. Appreciate it. But now, Tim's right. We should call it a night. Thanks so much for listening tonight, folks. And have a wonderful evening.